I'm so glad that you joined me today for this video about how to eat and cook healthy on a budget. This is a little bit of a different format than I usually do on YouTube, but I've been sharing this information using a PowerPoint with groups in person. And so I thought, why not share this in a PowerPoint format for you on YouTube? So I'll share a little bit in this PowerPoint about my personal health transformation. Some of you have heard that transformation story, others I'm sure have not. So I'm going to share that, and then we'll get into how to eat and cook healthy on a budget. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this as if I'm sitting with you in person and we're sitting in a classroom. I don't really have to go through who I am. You can find me, by the way, on Instagram and Facebook at Brenda Workman Speaks. So my health transformation story started when I was in the garden one day. And it was actually about 5.5 years ago. My husband and I were out working in the garden, and I suddenly became dizzy. I told my husband, I'm going to go in the house. I'm not feeling very well. And he followed me in, and he said, why don't you take your blood pressure? I had never had high blood pressure in my life. I had high cholesterol, and I had been on statins for about 25 years and really felt like I would be on statins the rest of my life, but never high blood pressure. And so I doubted that was what was causing this, but I decided I would go ahead and take my blood pressure. And sure enough, to my surprise, it was high. I took it the next day and it was high. I took it the next day and it was high. And I realized that, guess what? You have high blood pressure. And so I knew I was going to have to call my doctor, and I knew he was going to put me on meds. And I had a little while to think about it. Like I made the doctor's appointment and it was going to be 3 or 4 days before I could get in. And so I had a little while to think about it. So I did what most of us do, and that is I started Googling, went to Dr. Google and asked, what if you have high cholesterol and high blood pressure? And Dr. Google said that high cholesterol and high blood pressure are two main risk factors for heart disease and stroke because of the damage each one does over time. And when you have both, your risk is even higher. So while I was waiting for my doctor's appointment, I just started thinking, about, is this the direction you want to move in? We had been dealing with aging parents, and they were all on, 15 medications a day. They had a poor quality of life. Their outings were going to the doctor's office. They had a cardiologist, and they had, a pulmonary doctor, and they had an endocrinologist, and they had all these appointments. And I just thought, I don't want to age with a poor quality of life. Is there anything that I can do to make things different? And I knew that I wasn't a healthy eater. I had been a yo-yo dieter my entire adult life. There were times that I did really well on my diet, what I knew as a healthy diet back then, but I would feel deprived after a while, and I'd go off my diet only to gain the weight back that I had lost. And this just was a vicious cycle. And at this point, when I discovered the high blood pressure, I was heavier than I'd ever been. And I had pretty much lost hope that I would ever lose the weight or be a healthy person. So again, I had time to think about all this before going to the doctor. So I go to my doctor's appointment. He says, Brenda, I'm going to have to start you on blood pressure meds because it's very serious to have high blood pressure. It can do a lot of damage to your body. So I'm going to start you on these blood pressure meds. But he said, I've been doing some research, and this is what I suggest. I suggest that you eat a whole food plant-based diet, and maybe you can even reverse these conditions that you have. And I guess it was just the right time in my life, and I had had time to really kind of think about it. This picture, by the way, is a grocery haul from the grocery store. That's my kitchen table. I started following the doctor's orders. I thought, what do I have to lose? If I want to improve these conditions, if I possibly want to get off the meds, I'm going to have to change the way I eat. And like I said, I must have just been ready. And I just started saturating myself with knowledge about plant-based eating. What is it? What do I have to eat? What should I eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner? Just learning all that I could learn. I spent a lot of time looking at success stories online of people who had been on a plant-based diet, and I started reading where they got off their blood pressure meds and their cholesterol meds. Some reversed type 2 diabetes. Just a lot of really cool success stories that encouraged me. But I spent a lot of time learning as much as I could, and I followed the doctor's orders to a T. I wanted to make a difference. Now, some people, when they find out that I eat 100% plant-based, they say to me, don't you think that's a bit extreme? Like, bless your heart, you're not eating cheese or butter or ice cream. You're not even eating bacon and ham and lunch meat. Isn't that a bit extreme? I like what Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn said in reaction to this question. He said 500,000 people a year will have their chest open up and a vein taken from their leg and sewn in their coronary artery. Some people would call that extreme. So we've gotten to the point in our life where, these major medical surgeries that we have, we no longer think of them as being extreme. They're just kind of like everyday occurrences. But by golly, don't ask us to change our diet because that's just too extreme. So I would rather my extreme be changing the food that I eat rather than developing heart disease and having to have this procedure done. So again, I started researching for myself when my doctor suggested this. I watched the documentary Forks Over Knives. I'm pretty sure you can find that on YouTube, and I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen that, to definitely watch that. There's others as well, but this is a good one to start with. I started reading articles. I ordered some cookbooks and started making some recipes. I listened to plant-based doctors on YouTube, just their lectures, and just tried to saturate myself and learn as much as I could. And this is how I feel about it. I'm an educated adult. I should be able to research for myself and find out, all that I need to know to make myself healthier. So that's exactly what I did. So what is whole food plant-based? You know, some people say, is it the same as being vegan? And in West Virginia, where I live, the state that I live in, I don't usually use the word vegan because there's still that that thought process that vegan is somebody who lives in California. They are animal rights activists. They have an agenda, and they're trying to save the animals and save the planet. And so I usually use the word plant-based, or like my doctor said, whole food plant-based. And I'm trying to save Brenda. I'm doing this for my health. So vegan and even plant-based can look very different. On the left, you see French fries, and I think that picture, it looks like fried maybe eggplant. And so a person would say, well, that's not animal products, so that's plant-based or that's vegan. It is, but it's not healthy. It's fried, and even Oreos are plant-based. They don't have animal products in it, but they're not healthy for you. So when my doctor said whole food plant-based, he was talking about that dish on the right. I have some roasted potatoes in there. I have a lot of different veggies. On the bottom is a bed of greens. A lot of times I'll make homemade dressings and put on top of bowls like this. I'm making my recipes from whole ingredients, and I'm eating a lot of whole ingredients. So they're not highly processed, they're not fried, they're healthy. So that's what whole food plant-based is about. My results, I'm so excited about this. So again, I've been doing this for about 5.5 years. I ended up losing 60 pounds, 40 the first year, 20 the second year. I eventually got off of my blood pressure meds and my cholesterol meds, and I stopped the yo-yo dieting that I had done, that had been going on in my adult life for decades. And so that is very encouraging to me. My blood pressure meds, he kept decreasing them, and I got off them fairly quickly. The cholesterol meds, he kept decreasing them, and finally I did get off of those after being on them for over 20 years. And the day that I got off of the cholesterol meds, where he said, you don't have to have these refilled anymore, I went out in the car in the parking lot of his office area, and I cried because I thought, why didn't somebody tell me this 25 years ago? I wouldn't have had to be taking these meds. And I also cried out of gratitude, just realizing I'm so glad that I had a doctor that talked to me about this. And I finally did this, and I realized the power of food on our plate. Food has so much power. At this time, when I was losing the weight and all these good things were happening with my lab numbers, I wasn't really exercising. I might have been taking a walk here and there, but I didn't have a regular exercise program. I now am involved in regular exercise, but back then I was not. It was the food that made the difference. So I'm very excited about the results. Here's some more before and after pictures. I gained so much energy. My mood was better. My joints didn't hurt anymore. Like, there were so many benefits of changing the food that I ate. You probably know this already, but 6 out of 10 people in the US have some type of chronic disease, and 4 out of 10 have 2 or more chronic diseases. And it's not uncommon when you have some type of disease, let's just say you have heart disease, that at some point you develop maybe type 2 diabetes. And if you have type 2 diabetes, you could develop then some type of kidney disease because of it. And a lot of other complications come with diabetes as well. So we're not in a good place, and especially in the state in which I live, West Virginia, we're up there at the top of the nation for the poorest health, and we have a lot of diabetes in our state, and it's very sad, and we have to make a change in our food if we're going to see a change in our health outcome. So food makes a difference in our health. There's no question about it. This power plate is from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, but it shows you really what you eat when you're on a whole food plant-based diet. You eat fruits, vegetables, you eat grains like brown rice is a good choice, oats, there's all kinds of grains, quinoa. You would be surprised at all the grain options that you have once you get into it. Legumes, which are beans, peas, you can have nuts and seeds. And you would think, just looking at this, that it's limited, but wait till you see the food that I make from those categories. So again, any fruits that you want, any vegetables that you want, here's all these whole grains, all the different ones that are considered whole grains, beans, and which is from the legume family, peas, lentils fall in that category, nuts and seeds, and there's so many even recipes that you can make even using nuts and seeds. So a lot of people will say, well, what about your protein? If you're not eating meat, which again, we're going to get to cooking and eating healthy on a budget. But if I were to ask you, what is the most expensive thing you buy at the grocery store, you probably would say meat. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to eat meat. We've kind of grown up with this idea that meat is protein. And if we don't have meat, then where do we get our protein? And if we don't have meat and cheese, we must be protein deficient because we have to have that. And protein is very important, but protein is also found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. The things I just mentioned, there's protein in those things as well. And really, we don't have protein deficiency in the US anymore, even people who are completely plant-based. As long as you're eating enough calories in a variety of foods, you don't have protein deficiency, but we do have fiber deficiency. Doctors will tell you that Americans do not get enough fiber in their diet. Fiber is very important for good health. And fiber can be found not in animal products, but in plants. So don't worry about the protein part. You'll get plenty of protein as long as you're eating, again, a variety and you're eating enough calories. This is my kitchen. It morphed. It morphed over time. It didn't used to look like this. I used to have a lot of things in the freezer that were just like highly processed that you threw in the oven and cooked, and yeah, just not healthy food. But my pantry's on the left there. I have a lot of things in jars. I have grains, I have beans, I have seeds and nuts, just a lot of things. And then in my pantry, my husband on the door on the inside made me a spice rack. In the state that I grew up in, West Virginia, I was taught in cooking that you flavor things, even if it's good stuff like green beans and, October or pinto beans, you flavor it with fat. You got to add fat to give it flavor. Well, I have since learned that you don't have to have fat, and actually fat's not good for you, but you can certainly use spices and herbs and different things, seasonings in your cooking and make your food delicious without adding the fat. Lots of variety of beans there in the middle, and then in my refrigerator on the right, I do some batch cooking where I make a larger quantity than what I need for a meal, and then I have it left over to use at another time. Just makes things a whole lot easier. When I travel, which I do a lot, I take my food with me because I consider my food my medicine now since I got off medications. And so I'm taking my medicine with me. I wouldn't go on vacation and say, hey, I'm on vacation, I'm not taking my medicine. Or I wouldn't say, today's my birthday, I'm not going to take my medication today because it's my birthday. Or I'm going to be staying in a hotel, so I'm not going to take my medicine. I feel like my food is my medicine, so wherever I go, no matter what day it is, I'm going to eat my healthy food because it's my medicine now. So this was in a hotel room, and this was some food that I took with me. This is not uncommon at all. Here I had a bag in a hotel room with a little rice cooker in it. I could fix my oats for breakfast in that rice cooker, as well as rice and beans for dinner if I needed to. On the right, I was putting together a sandwich in my hotel room, so I've learned to make it work. So how do you eat healthy on a budget? I've had people come up to me and say, I would eat healthy, but it's just too expensive, and I will disagree with you on that. If you buy specialty foods, for instance, occasionally I will buy plant-based meatballs. They're more processed and they cost more, so I don't buy them very often. But I'll throw those plant-based meatballs in a marinara and eat them over a whole wheat pasta, and they're delicious, and it's a special treat. Specialty food is more expensive, but you don't have to choose specialty food. And just like I mentioned a while ago, you don't have to choose bacon or ham or lunch meat or ground beef or those other things that have a lot of saturated fat in it, and they're also pricier. You don't have to have that in your diet. You can eat predominantly plants, be completely healthy, more so than if you have all that saturated fat, and it's going to be easier on your budget. Sorry, let me back up. I think I may have skipped one. I don't know if I did or not. I think I'm pretty sure I did. And I'm trying to figure out how to get it back, so you guys just bear with me. I thought I could go backwards, but I'm struggling. So the first one, I skipped past it. The first one was to purchase your food items at um, lower price grocery stores. So even Dollar General has canned vegetables. They have canned fruit. If you're getting the canned fruit, be sure it's in its own juice and not in syrup. They have bags of rice. They have bags of dry beans. They have beans in a can. Some of them have fresh produce. They have frozen vegetables. They have a lot of things that are very healthy at even General Dollar or Family Dollar stores. So some people tell me they have like Save-A-Lots where they live, and that would be a lower price. Or Aldi would be maybe a lower price. So if you live somewhere where you have a grocery store that has lower price things, then that definitely would be where you want to go. Or let's say you're shopping at Walmart, go ahead and buy the Walmart brand, buy whatever is the cheaper brand. That's going to save you money. Sorry, I couldn't go backwards on that slide. I'm not quite sure why it wouldn't let me do that. On this one, don't be afraid to build your meals around starches. You know, we live in this culture where everybody is so afraid of carbs. It's like, oh my gosh, don't eat any potatoes, don't eat any pasta. And I do realize that if you're a diabetic, you do have to watch these things because sometimes it will cause your blood sugar to go up. But the main culprit of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is too much fat in the diet, which prevents insulin from working the way it needs to in your body. So those things that are high in saturated fat, we really need to watch. So, you know, go ahead and include rice in your meals, potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. They have a lot of vitamins in there, beta carotene, just so many good things for you. Even pasta. I always buy whole wheat pasta when I can. But starches are very inexpensive. So let's say I fix some rice and I fix a great big skillet full of stir fry veggies and I eat it with the rice. And so I'm getting really a lower calorie meal and it doesn't cost very much. So don't be afraid to build your meals around starch instead of thinking that you have to have a big hunk of meat, which is very costly, to go with your dinner. Shop in season and freeze seasonal fruits and vegetables. So in the summertime, when you stop at the farmer's market, or maybe you grow your own green beans, get things that are growing at that time. With green beans, you can go ahead and break them, wash them, put them in a pot for about 10-15 minutes, which is called blanching them, and then put those blanched green beans in a freezer bag and put them in your freezer. Pull them out in the wintertime and cook them until they're done. Add some veggie broth to them, maybe some onions, maybe a little garlic powder, salt and pepper, and they'll be delicious. I have an Instapot, and so I cook my green beans and my dry beans in my Instapot. But if you don't, maybe you have a pressure cooker, or you can just cook them longer on the stove. But let's say that it's berry season. then buy berries when they're cheap and freeze the extra ones for when they're not in season. Apples, the same way. Maybe cook them up and make some apple sauce with them and then freeze it and use it later. So definitely buy them when they're in season and they're not so expensive. When you want something and it's really expensive in the produce section because it's out of season, then go to the freezer section and see if you can find it in the freezer section. It'll probably be cheaper there. And frozen fruits and vegetables are plenty nutritious, sometimes even more so than the fresh stuff. Shop in bulk. So let's just say you go to the store and they have corn for 25 cents a can. Check the price, check the date, of course, but load up on things when they're selling them at really good prices, or you can get them in great big bags for a cheaper amount. When you know you're going to use it, then buy things in bulk because it's cheaper that way. So that's a way to save money as well. Choose less expensive food items. Again, these are all plants, guys. Potatoes, rice, dry beans, oats, canned fruit, canned veggies, frozen veggies, pasta. All these are very inexpensive, and you can throw these things together to make delicious meals. If it's highly processed now, it may be cheap, but it's not healthy. So if I go to the store and I see mac and cheese and it's really cheap, it's highly processed, it's high in fat, and it's not a healthy choice. If I see Little Debbie cakes and they're on sale, that's not a healthy choice. So you want to be sure you're getting those things that are good for you and that are healthy, and there's plenty to choose from that are not overly expensive. Batch cook ahead. So you see that pot of soup on the left. Sometimes I'll make a big pot of soup and I'm not going to eat all of that in the next 2 or 3 days. So I'll eat it for a couple days, then I'll freeze the remainder of it. And then on a cold day, I'll pull that soup out of the freezer, warm it up, and have it again. So that's a way to stretch things out and to save some money. When I bake potatoes, I usually bake enough for my husband and I for our dinner, but then I bake probably 4 to 6 more so that I have them left over. And I may warm them up just as a baked potato. I may chop them up and put them in my air fryer or in the oven and brown them and eat them some other way or as a side. Also, overnight oats are on the right there. You might want to look up a recipe for plant-based overnight oats, because you put all the ingredients in a jar and you can do like 5 jars at a time. And then each morning you get it out of the refrigerator. I like mine warmed. Warm it in the microwave, stick a spoon in it, and you got your breakfast. And that's a way of batch cooking. So overnight oats are good, and that would be very inexpensive. Same with salads and fruit. So I'll usually have several fruits in my house, and so I'll just start chopping and throwing them all in some kind of airtight container. Mine happens to be like an old Tupperware container that I have, and I'll put apples and an orange and some blueberries, usually strawberries. And by the way, if you put citrus with those apples, like an orange, the apples don't turn. So I make sure I always have an orange in there if I'm doing apples. And I sometimes put grapes in there as well. So I'll just make a big fruit salad. And then each morning when I get up, I have a bowl of fruit usually with some granola or with my oats. It's already made. It's batched ahead of time. Same way with a green salad. I don't like to chop up veggies every time I want a salad, so I'll make a great big salad, put it in a container, airtight. I usually don't put tomatoes in it or cucumbers in it at the time that I make it in that big container, because that will make it go bad faster. If I want to add tomatoes or cucumbers later, I can, but sometimes it lasts me for a week, and I always have it there. It's always ready. to add to a meal, or to add beans on top and just have a salad for my lunch. But batch cooking saves time, and it also saves money as well. Pack food instead of eating out. Many times my husband and I will be traveling, and we're headed out pretty early. I'll go ahead and pack my breakfast, and put it in a, like a cooler bag. Um, yeah, and even if I'm going to be gone and it's going to be lunchtime, sometimes I'll pack my lunch as well. So yeah, or if I'm out running around, I'm going to be running around and I might get hungry. I maybe put an apple and a banana in my bag so that I have something to snack on. Or come on home and eat your batch food that you have. When you eat at a restaurant, you usually add about 300 calories to a meal by just eating out. So it would save you money not to eat out as often. I do eat out sometimes, but you're gonna get healthier food if you eat your own recipes rather than eating at a restaurant. So that's also a way to save money too. So here's some plant-based ideas, guys. These are recipes that I've made, and they're made with very simple ingredients. They're not expensive, and I love my food. It's so delicious. So there on the left, I have like shredded wheat, and I have fruit in there. This was a breakfast. I also have some ground flaxseed. I usually put about a tablespoon with my breakfast in the mornings. And then I would add some type of plant milk to that, soy milk, almond milk, something like that. In the middle there, I've got avocado toast with tomatoes on top and some sprouts. I actually grow my own sprouts. You could leave the sprouts off of that and it would still be delicious. And a side of watermelon. On the right, that's like some rice noodles, some stir-fry veggies, and it's tofu. Sometimes when I say the word tofu, people say ooh, and many times they've never tasted tofu. They just say ooh because they think it looks gross or they don't know anything about it. But I have perfected the way that I cook it. I love it. I used to also think it was gross. I used to also bring it home and didn't know what to do with it. I wanted to like it, I wanted to make it, but I didn't know what to do with it. But I eat it quite regularly now. So many recipes you can put it in. On the left, this is like a fajita, but it's got mushrooms instead of meat. Again, inexpensive. It looks like this one has guacamole on it, but you could just put all kinds of different vegetables on this fajita. In the middle, again, this is tofu. It's called scrambled tofu. It has peppers, onions, mushrooms in it with a side of roasted potatoes. And then on the far right, those are egg rolls that I made at home. I cooked them in the air fryer rather than frying them in oil. And then I made like a stir fry with rice. I made a plant-based yum yum sauce. This was actually for a special holiday meal. And I ate everything on that plate, guys. I ate all three of those egg rolls at one time, and they were delicious. They did not have meat in them. They just had veggies in them, and it was so good. Far left here, I have my garden green beans, and I cooked them with veggie broth and onions, salt and pepper, maybe a little garlic powder. And then right before I was going to eat them, I threw in a can of Great Northern beans, and that added extra protein to that meal. I have a side of potatoes there. Those are Yukon Gold potatoes. And I make a plant-based sour cream that I put on the potatoes, and that is chives on top of that from my garden. In the middle, that was at a restaurant, and it was a vegetable pasta salad, a lentil soup, and a veggie wrap. On the far right, that is a soup that I make that's so good. It's got gnocchi in it. Are you familiar with gnocchi? It is like a potato dumpling or a potato pasta, sort of. Chewy. I think it's very good. This one happens to have kale in it, but very tasty, very good gnocchi is very inexpensive to buy. I didn't even know about gnocchi. Like I maybe saw it at restaurants, but once I started eating plant-based, I noticed that it's with the pasta in the grocery store everywhere I go. And so gnocchi, it's usually not in a stand-up box like other pastas are. It usually is laying flat, so it's sometimes hard to see, but it's delicious in soups. You can also eat it with marinara sauce as well. On the left there, that's like a hot fruit dish that I make, and I have some low-fat granola on top of it. In the middle, that is sloppy joes that I've made with lentils, red lentils, and I flavor it in such a way that it is just so good. And I eat it with that's coleslaw on top of it, and it's also on bread. Far right, that's just a plain out summertime garden plate with all veggies, some cantaloupe there, fresh tomatoes out of the garden, potatoes, green beans, corn, nothing like it, man. Those garden vegetables are delicious, and I love summertime because of that. Far left, this is what I call fast food. I come home, I'm hungry, I want something fast. I put some white rice and water in my rice cooker, turn it on while that's cooking. And by the way, the reason I choose white is because I'm in a hurry. I normally eat brown rice, but it takes longer. So if I'm really hungry, I go for the white rice. While it's cooking, I get out a can of some kind of beans, black beans, pinto beans, warm them in a pot, maybe throw some onions in there while it's cooking. Once those two things get done, I put them together. I add chopped tomatoes, chopped onions, and that's my dinner. I may put it in a pasta bowl, and that's my dinner. Just fast food. It comes together so quickly. In the middle, again, that looks like a shredded wheat for breakfast with some berries on top. Far right, that is whole wheat pancakes with some walnuts and some maple syrup. Absolutely delicious. Far left, this is some pumpkin muffins that I made. In the middle, this is a type of pasta called orzo, and this is an orzo salad. It has like a balsamic vinaigrette on it. It's delicious. Far right was at a restaurant, and this is a veggie burger, and I got broccoli as my side. Don't you guys feel sorry for me? I mean, look at all this delicious food, and I'm making this with whole foods, whole food, plant-based. Far left, that again is like a pumpkin cookie, and I got the recipe from that recipe book, Plant You. I recommend that recipe book. It's really good. In the middle, this is like a chocolate cherry smoothie, very delicious. Far right, these are brownie bites. You don't bake them, but very delicious. So many recipes that I can make just putting whole food plants together to make recipes. I never get bored with the food. Eating healthy doesn't have to be expensive, you guys. I just went through all these things that I make with very inexpensive um, um, ingredients. So look for inexpensive plant-based recipes even online, because you'll find that it's cheaper to make those recipes than it is to make meat dishes. If you don't have an ingredient, let's say you go to put a recipe together and it calls for maybe a spice that you don't have, then Google what would be a substitution for this. And sometimes you might have the substitution, or you could leave that one ingredient out and it wouldn't be a big deal. So don't let that derail you. Take good care of you so you have good quality of life later. Sometimes I do get in classes where people, or I may be talking to somebody out in public, and they may make a remark to me like, well, you know what, I'm going to die anyway, so it really doesn't matter what I eat, who cares? Well, I'm going to die too. I'm not trying to prevent death. I'm trying to prevent a poor quality of life. And so I feel like the food that I eat makes me a healthier person. Therefore, my quality of life as I age should be better. At least I'm putting forth the effort to make it better. And it's working well for me. And so it has to do with quality of life. And I know everybody wants to have a good quality of life, but you have to take care of you, right? In the process. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you always got. So don't think you can keep doing the same thing and expect different results. It's not going to happen. If you're not getting the results that you want, then obviously you need to change something. And if you want things to change, you have to change. You can't say, I can't do this because my husband would not eat this way. Guess what? My husband doesn't eat 100% plant-based either. He eats more plant-based than he used to be because he has a wife that cooks all this plant-based food. But I can't wait around saying, I'm going to wait until he's on board. I am responsible for my health, and he is responsible for his health. So don't wait for other people to change. You have to be the one to change. If we wait on others, it may never happen. We have to take responsibility for our own health and do something about our health. So if nothing else, I just want to encourage you to eat more plants. They're not expensive. Sometimes produce will be expensive when it's out of season. And if that's the case, then work your way over to the can section or the frozen section and get your vegetables and your fruit over there instead of buying it fresh. But when it is in season, then try to load up on it and freeze some of it for later. But beans, whole grains, the things that we've mentioned, these are some of the cheapest things to buy. So I want to encourage you to just incorporate more plants into your diet. And I think you'll find that the cost of your groceries will go down. I will tell you that when I started eating plant-based, the most expensive part was buying the spices, which, by the way, you can get a lot at General Dollar, but some of the spices and the condiments. So maybe my recipes called for rice vinegar. I didn't used to ever have rice vinegar in my house, but a lot of the recipes called for it, so I had to buy that. There's something called nutritional yeast. It's found in the baker section, but you don't bake with it. It's an inactive yeast. It's got a lot of nutrition in it. It also has a cheesy flavor. So a lot of times plant-based recipes will call for nutritional yeast because you're adding it to recipes to make it cheesy flavored. And there may be a few other condiments and different things. Those were the most expensive things. But once my kitchen got up to par, so to speak, with a plant-based kitchen, and I had all those things, they don't run out all at one time. One will run out and I'll replace it. Then my vinegar might run out and I'll replace it. So it's not expensive now. At the beginning, getting the condiments were more expensive, but the food, the groceries, other than the condiments and spices, were not expensive. They were a lot less expensive than the processed food I used to buy, the bacon, the sausage, the cheese, all of those things. And I've been doing this now for 5.5 years. So now the prices of those things have doubled since when I used to buy them in the grocery store. So my groceries are a lot less expensive because I eat so many plants, and I would recommend that for you as well, for your health and for your pocketbook as well. Just so you know, my website, there's my email address, but my website is brendaworkmanspeaks.com if you want to go on there and look around a little bit. I do offer a course on there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Brenda Workman Speaks. Obviously, you know, I have a YouTube channel because you're on that now. And then if you go to WDTV and you look in their menu and you look at First at 4, it's the name of one of their programs, First at 4, you'll see Whip It Up, because I do Whip It Up Wednesdays with them, and it's a cooking demo every week. So you don't have to watch it live necessarily. You can just go there, like I mentioned, WDTV, First at 4, and then Whip It Up, and you'll see all the recordings that I've done and all the recipes. So there's all kinds of demos, and there's all kinds of recipes there. So hopefully that will be helpful to you as well. If you go to my website, brendaworkmanspeaks.com, a little pop-up will pop up, and it'll say, if you want this plant-based success booklet, then give me your email. And once you give me your email, I send that to you, and it's got a lot of information about plant-based eating in there that I think will be helpful to you. So that might be something you want to do as well. So guys, I hope this was helpful to you. It doesn't have to be expensive. The more plants you eat, really the healthier you are, and the less you'll spend on groceries. So let me encourage you to continue to move along this path of including more plants in your diet. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Remember, there's power in your plate, and what you eat really does matter. See you next time.